Game week 38, Manchester City, Premier League champions, 2021-22 season. Martin Horsfield's got the giggle fits. Rich Williams has got a face like a smart ass. Richard, we're champions, mate.
Yeah, we are champions. But we bottled in the ultimate shithousery, didn't we? We were supposed to lose. Liverpool weren't supposed to win. We missed out.
Sorry, go on. I'm all right.
Martin's been on the special smarties today.
No, it was what you said to Rich off air, and then Rich's face. It did, man.
Oh dear. We're also joined by Mr. Callum. My team are shithouse in the Premier League, Blundell. Good evening, Callum.
Hello. We're all buzzing, aren't we? What a day. What a week, to be honest. What a week. What a week.
Well, I mean, haven't you got something to say to us all?
Congratulations on winning the league, because those horrible bastards have finally, the quadruple is over. It's officially over. But to be fair, Steven Gerrard once again slipped up somehow where he weren't even on the pitch. He somehow lost the league for Liverpool again. What a guy. Like, 2 times he's done that now. But yeah, up to Manchester City. Pep Guardiola is the greatest manager of all time. That might sound disrespectful to Alex Ferguson, but he is to me. And Kevin De Bruyne is the greatest football player I have ever seen in my life. Wow. What a guy. And Jack Grealish is just a sexy bastard.
No, the word begins with a T and ends with a U. Martin's thinking, what could that be? Oh, fucking Christ on that butt. Right, that's it. You're on suspension over the summer.
That's why he's giggling. He's just sitting there planning.
The word's thank you, Cal. That's the word you're looking for.
Yeah, I'd say thank you, but I've given enough thanks for you, Rob, over the last few years. This is the 4th year out of 5 now that you've took the league, and fortunately 3 of them have been off those horrible bastards. But yeah, just to say, the people have doubted the mentality of your players, but I don't, like Martin said it perfectly, no one can doubt the mentality of that group of players to win the league 4 times out of 5. That's not even fair. Fergie done it, yeah, but it was rare for any manager to do it. Like, Pep Guardiola deserves so much credit. Without a striker, and let's be real, he's wasted about 400 chances. Erling Haaland's going to score 1 billion goals next year.
I know he is. I know. And let it be said, by the way, this is breaking news, by the way, ladies and gentlemen. Breaking news, and it's a late call. But, Cal, you finally got a chance to have a look at that potential Rodri handball at Goodison Park.
Never a penalty. VAR, spot on. Never a penalty. Never a penalty at all. It hit his leg, not his arm.
It wasn't a penalty because it was offside in the build-up.
No, it wasn't. Thank you for confirming that, Cal. So, well done there. Premier League making another great call. Richard, Martin.
Frank Lampard sent his letter to the Premier League in a stamped addressed envelope, and apparently he's getting it back. He's asked to get it back now.
Oh, it's not another complaint from Everton, is it?
Right, so let's...
No, Lampard loves it. He agrees with it all now.
We're not going to talk about the individual games today, gentlemen, because we'd be lying if we said we've seen any of them. We haven't.
Too busy. Sorry.
But let's just go. So the top 4, as it stands. Manchester City champions. Richard, champion. Martin, champion. Big Morgan, champion. FIFA, champion. Jack Lee, champion. Scotty Moll, champion. Heel Matt Howarth, champion. Who else is a champion? Oh, useless? No, sorry, mate. You're not a champion, mate. Oh, sorry. Yeah, Manchester City champions, 93 points. Liverpool, runners-up.
The Pretenders. I don't mean the band.
Second place is first last. Chelsea in 3rd. Tottenham in 4th, securing that first Champions League spot.
I don't think anyone came 4th. I think the league went 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 5th.
I've never seen this word before. Tottenham. I've never seen that word before. Never heard of it. Arsenal 4th.
It was an artesian cheese room.
Bottle jobs. Bottle jobs.
Manchester United will be playing Europa League football next season with the kids. West Ham got the Europa Conference spot.
How?
I'm actually kind of devastated for West Ham, but, fuck them. They let me
How have
down.
United finished above West Ham?
They did. It happened. And the relegation spots. Burnley, Watford and Norwich. Now, I don't know how you feel about, Watford and Norwich have been gone for a while. Burnley, obviously, on the last day, and Leeds just survived on the last day. But for a while there, it was looking like it was going to be Leeds after Everton got their asses in gear and won a couple of football matches. But it's Burnley.
I feel deeply, deeply relieved, Rob, because I think I've said on every single 20 since we started that Leeds are way too good to go down.
Oh, there you go. And I'd just like to say that no dice, no party. Or no dice, no Premier League. So I wonder if they're going to regret that sacking. No, Martin says no.
If you actually look at the points to game ratio, I think if they'd have kept all the dice, looking back on it, Michael Jackson, he actually gave them a fighting chance to actually take it to the last day. I don't think on the dice they'd have got to the last day, if I'm honest. I think they were on a downward spiral.
They were, you're not wrong, but I'm still going to argue that Sean Dyche has pulled a rabbit out of the hat for about 8 years. So obviously we'll never know.
I think they were down the day Newcastle came and signed Chris Wood. I still thought that was, I said at the time, still do, think that was their moment of the season where Newcastle...
Sorry, how many goals has Chris Wood scored, Rich?
Get me
the stat on Chris Wood scoring 30 goals.
No. Whoever said he was going to score 30
Newcastle
goals.
have got with Chris Wood.
No, Nick. It's Kieran Trippier.
How many places they've been.
Kieran Trippier was injured for 5 months, you wallyhead.
Bruno Gimenez and Trippier. Jack shit to do with Chris.
Carl, are you with me on this one, right? Martin's just claimed that Newcastle are in the mid-table because Kieran Trippier, who's been out for 4 months.
Yeah. Well, we've spoken, me, Rich, and you, Robert, spoke about this, about Chris Wood on countless occasions. He was signed to weaken Burnley. Weghorst came in. Weghorst played 20 games in the Prem this season for Burnley and scored 2 goals. And Chris Wood played 17 in the Prem for Newcastle this season and scored 2 goals. So, he was a big loss for Burnley. Yes, he hadn't had the best season for Burnley, but last season he scored, I think, 8 or 9 goals, which for a Burnley team, they can be 9 goals, which can keep you in the Premier League. Burnley lost their striker, their talisman, and Newcastle did very well in buying him, because let's be real, Newcastle have had they've got a lot of money to be able to spend, because they haven't spent a lot of money in the last few years. So they went out, they weakened their rivals, they weakened Burnley, and look what happened to Burnley. Burnley have struggled, because let's be real, they've drew a lot of games, and that's the problems, and that's what's relegated them.
I think the other thing, Cal, is that the players who went to Newcastle changed the mentality of the club.
Yeah,
and
the manager
changed the way they play, and they made them a lot more solid defensively.
Yeah. And the manager as well, Rich.
Yeah,
and the manager,
so
deserves.
I think they could not have asked for a better finish.
Considering where Newcastle were at Christmas, absolute dire straits. I mean, I've heard that they're going to knock down that Alan Shearer statue and build one of Chris Wood, if I'm honest.
Oh, they should do. They should do, definitely.
There's a stat, Rob, just to obviously not to carry it on, but with Eddie Howe, since January, I think January 12th, Newcastle have got 37 points since January 12th. 37 points. That's incredible.
That's almost champions form, that is.
Yeah, War Jackie, War Alan, War Chrissy.
Just want to say, Big Morgan's just said there, how good was Zinchenko and Gundogan today? We're going to get onto that, mate. Zinchenko and Gundogan today, mate, were just wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. So was Sterling. Let's not forget little Raz Sterling. He played his part.
First cross.
Well, we'll get onto that. I was just addressing that. I was saying, good evening, by the way, Morgan and Scotty and Michael Feeney. Good evening, my friend. Youssef is sticking around with us. Fair play to you, Youssef. You've actually, for the amount of stick I've given you this season, Youssef, fair play to you for actually sticking around, mate. Right, well, let's get
off my hat.
Let's get into the game, shall we? There's no order, really, because all games kicked off at the same time. But Arsenal absolutely spanked Everton 5-1. It's a shame that Arsenal couldn't find the goals in a couple of other games this season because I had them nailed for fourth and they absolutely spursed it. Callum, you're an Everton fan, so you talk us through getting beat 5-1.
It's just, we were on the beach, you know what I mean? We made 6 changes to the side that beat Crystal Palace in what was one of the greatest days of my life, which you wouldn't think it is, staying up in the Premier League. It was absolutely incredible. But I think as well, tired legs. Frank said in his interview that these players have worked unbelievably hard over the last 2 months to, you know what I mean? I thought we were done. When we lost to Burnley, I thought that was it. I've never felt that low as an Everton fan. And the way these players have come back and stayed in the Premier League, I'm proud of them. And I haven't said that for years. I'm proud of them. But today was just, they were tired. Players hadn't played in months. You know, Tom Davis made his first start, his first game in 6 months. So just one of them. Arsenal had the fitter legs, we didn't. And he battered us. I'm not angry. I'm not sad. It's one of them. And well done to Arsenal. They finished 5th, which is an improvement on the last 2 years. But he just battered us, didn't he? I can't really say much about it. It wasn't you know what I mean? The players were just tired, and they were players who've played the last games. John Joe Kenny will never play for us again, hopefully, and Cenk Tosun, which are 2 players off the wage bill for the summer.
Okay,
but yeah.
Okay. Well, we've all got theories about Arsenal. I've got my thoughts on Arsenal. I still think it's an incredible achievement. I don't know what yours are, Rich, but I'm going to ask, because Martin, you're the most critical of Arsenal. So I'm going to let you go on it, and I'm going to hold my tongue while you do so.
I do think they bottled it. I really do. They literally had it. They've had about 6 or 7 chances at getting this top 4 nailed. And if you look at Arsenal, if you go back to what I said when they come up against teams in and around against Chelsea. What's up, Rob? You're laughing.
Oh, just Rich, blowing his hoot up. Go on, carry on.
I mean, Chelsea, the thing is with Arsenal, they're a roller coaster. They are a team that will go to Arsenal and win, and then the next week play someone like Burnley and get beat. That is just Arsenal. It is Arsenal FC. That is everything that sums them up. And for me, it was, they went into that North London derby a couple of weeks ago so confident, as though like they only had to turn up and they were going to win. And by that stage, I think Arsenal could even afford to drop points in that game. They could literally afford to drop points in the derby and still be favourites for 4th place.
Okay, well, I'm going to stick to my original, Martin, I'm going to stick to my original statement, which was they're 1.5, maybe 2 years into a 5-year project. I'm sorry, but Ramsdale's been excellent. White's been decent. Bukayo Saka's been incredible. After that Euros tournament heartbreak, Bukayo Saka's been incredible. Martinelli, brilliant. It's 2 years into a 5 years project. Now, yes, you are quite right. They have fallen short this season, but there's such a marker laid down for them. In the games that Arsenal were good this season, they were really good. And that's a marker going forward. I'm convinced by Arteta, and I'm convinced by the spine of that team that they've got. A young spine, a very competent spine.
That's key what you just said. And that's the problem. It's too young.
Yeah, right now it is. Yeah, but that's why I said the 2 years into a 5-year project.
Yeah. So the problem, but the problem is Arteta won't get 5 years.
I think he will.
He will not get 5 years at Arsenal to improving, get this team going.
Martin, I mean, I agree with you that they did bottle the end of the season when they had it pretty much in the bag. They did go 4 points clear when they went to play Spurs, and that was after dropping a couple of points at the game before that. But on the flip side of that, I actually think for 45 minutes against City, they gave us more trouble than any other team we played this season. And I include, in terms of actually controlling the game, they controlled the game more than Real Madrid did at any point in their minutes they got on top. So they showed, I thought, some fantastic play against us, and they have reached some real heights. But I think we said at the time that they lack real leadership in the team, because their kind of experienced player was Granit Xhaka, and in both the games against City, he showed why he bottles it in big games. Mentally, he's not up to leading the team. So I think they are a couple of, if they signed the right two players, I think, and improve again and give themselves that experience, I think they are potentially a side that could have been pushing Chelsea for third.
Listen, I agree with
gentlemen,
that.
gentlemen, we're gonna move on because we'll never settle this debate this season. Put a pin in it for 2 or 3 years' time. Okay, seriously. I took a couple more signings and those players, growing up a little bit, and I think they're in business. Now, I'm going to make up. So the next game we're going to talk about is Brentford Leeds. Again, we're not specifically talking about the game. We're talking about the teams involved, right? I'm putting Brentford on as my nailed-on favourites to be the first team relegated next season.
Are you saying second season syndrome?
It's as sure as the sun will rise.
Is that because you think Thomas Frank's been found out? Or
they've overachieved. Parts of this season, Martin, they've overachieved and they are getting found out of late. Secondly to that, by the way, Leeds United, congratulations on still being a Premier League team, because I have to tell you, the Leeds of about 20 years, was it 20 years ago or 15 years ago, 16 years ago when they got relegated? When was it? So was it 2005, 2006, 2007? I can't remember what year it was exactly.
2005,
but
I think.
when they went down,
they still had Alan Smith.
When they went down, we all knew that when Leeds came back, they had to come back with a new Premier League mentality and not a Championship mentality, because they spent so long there. And last season, we never really got to find out what Leeds were. And then this season, they've had both styles of football. They're a bit more settled under this March guy. The Bielsa ball was completely, no, you can't do that anymore. Sorry, you've not got the players for it. Or it's just you can't play that football in the league. It was exciting to watch. In the Championship, they would have won the Championship with 110 points. No problem. But I'm relegating Brentford already, and clip me, and so if you're a Brentford fan, I'm sorry, but it's just the realities of football. And Leeds, you've got to be a Premier League team next year. If you're not a Premier League team next year, you're not surviving. You're not.
The problem is with Leeds, it looks like they're about to lose 2 or 3 of their key men out the door. Then now, you just said there, Rob, about being a Premier League team. They're going behind the eight ball by the looks of things. Now, whether that's to clear the Bielsa team out, and Jesse Marsh wants to bring his own, because by the looks of things, like Rafinha might be on his way. Is it Barcelona? Calvin Phillips has been strongly linked with us. You've got Rodrigo.
Calvin Phillips, I reckon, was all if they went down, because he had a relegation clause. If they don't go down, I reckon he'll stay.
I don't think he does, Rich, personally.
Where does he go, though?
Asking 75 million.
I genuinely do think Calvin Phillips will end up with us.
I don't think at 75 million. I don't think at that price. It'd have to be a knockdown price.
I think your point about Brentford, Rob, is actually, I think Brentford will go down. Brentford remind me a bit similar of a Huddersfield when they came up. First season, they did pretty well. And then when Sheffield came up, they did very well. And then the next season, they were pretty bad, because no one had seen Brentford, because Brentford hadn't been up in the Premier League. So no one knew how to approach them. So they surprised, and, they played you twice. Were very good against you. They took points off Liverpool. I think they took points off Tottenham, and I could be wrong with that though. And they took 6 points off us, so they do cause problems for a lot of teams. But I think next season they're going to get figured out, and I think they're going to struggle next season in the Premier League.
I wanted to ask you a question, but privately, go on.
I think with Leeds, Leeds have been, last year, Leeds were absolutely sensational last year. The style of football, the manager, everything was brilliant last year. But what Martin said about the players leaving was that spot on, Martin, because I think Phillips, Rafinha, and I don't know who the other one that will go, because Marcelo Bielsa liked a small squad. He liked a small squad, because usually with bigger squads comes problems and egos, where with a small squad you don't have many egos. And Bielsa said this on plenty of occasions, but Leeds owners don't really want to put money into the club. We saw that last summer. They only signed, I think, 1 or 2 players, where I think this summer the plan for Jesse Marsh is to get rid of 2 or 3 players for big fees, 60 million maybe for Rafinha, 50 million for Calvin Phillips, and then buy maybe 5, 6 set, a bit like what Villa did with Grealish. They sold Grealish and brought in more players to kind of improve the team.
Villa again, I don't think all of those signings that Villa made, I feel, apart from Dinier's a good signing, but I think that a lot of them are scattergun, Cal. They're scattergun.
I think Leeds will try and do the same, because Leeds are a weird one, because I think we all thought Leeds were going to do amazing this year. After last year finishing 9th, the thing was, once they get the fans back, they're going to be even better. But they didn't, and I think as well the way they played last year with the fitness, they kind of outpaced every team, where they haven't been able to do that this year. And they've picked up injuries, and this season I think we realised just how small Leeds squad is, and the problems in Marcelo Bielsa's game as a manager, because he struggled and he got sacked. But Jesse Marsh, man, obviously he's kept them up, but by the skin of their teeth, and they need a good summer.
Yeah, they played without a spine so much of the season. I mean, so much of last season was based on Bamford's goals, Phillips solid, and Cooper kind of organising their defence. And they can't have played more than a couple of games in the entire season with those three in the spine actually fit, because Bamford's come back for about 2 games and then gone back injured again, so he's got no form, no goals. Phillips, was out from December until the City game, or the week before the City game, so he was out for a huge chunk of the season. And Cooper, he was out for the whole season. He came back for about 2 games, and he got injured against the warm-up against us. And so they kind of lack that spine. I think Rafinha will go, because I think he's only got a year left and they'll have to cash in. I'm not convinced Phillips will. I thought he was a nailed-on signing if they went down with his release clause, but will someone go and pay 70 million for him? I'm not sure.
I don't think so.
And he loves Leeds, and being in the Premier League still.
Jack Grealish loved Villa, Rich.
Yeah, but Jack Grealish stayed at Villa when United tried.
Hold on. Hold your horses. Now, one thing I will say about Leeds today is, I think they played a couple of young lads. Like, there's a couple of young players that aren't normally in the first team, and they still got a result. So maybe that's a promising light for them. I don't know.
Can I just ask a quick question? With regards to Leeds, I think they've got a little bit of trepidation about spending loads of money again. Do you know that saying, once bitten, twice shy? We'd all have if we that's what
given their history.
Leeds have been down this road and they got very much bit. And I just think at the moment they're in a bit, like Cal said, they've got to sell before they buy. I know they've just signed somebody tonight, or they've agreed a deal with somebody tonight, but I do think they're going to lose key players out, and maybe that's what they need, because to get that Bielsa system out of their head.
There's one thing there's 2 things that Leeds have got to get into their heads now, right? Bielsa attracted players that they wouldn't normally get, and secondly, they're the 3rd tier down. They're not in City and Liverpool's shopping list. They're not in Chelsea's shopping list. And then the step below that is what Arsenal, Tottenham, United, West Ham. They're not in that shopping list either, so they're in the tier below that. And finding.
Did you say they're in Everton's?
Yeah, they're in Everton's. Everton, Aston Villa, and Leeds are all sort of shopping at the same store. They are. Yeah. They are.
I think Aston Villa have a bit more aspiration.
No, not really.
I don't think Leeds would have gone.
No, Martin, you're talking about aspirations. Well, the Coutinho thing was because of Gerrard, but I'm not talking about aspirations of the club. I'm talking about viability of signing Brazilians, signing Argentinians, signing Spanish players. We struggle with it, Martin, and we're champions.
Do you think they take gambles?
Well, that's what I'm saying. They have to. They're forced to go to that next tier down and take gambles. So that anyway, we'll see next season what they do. It's going to be an interesting summer for them. Brighton and West Ham. Brighton won the game 3-1. Brighton
shocked.
Well, we'll talk about West Ham in a minute, but let's talk about Brighton first. How do you rate their season?
I think they had a bit of a dip in a few months back, but generally, I thought up to Christmas they were in terms of the way they played, but a bit like City didn't finish their chances. They were a side who should have been 4th in the Premier. I think they were up to that point better. possibly maybe with West Ham, had deserved to be above, just about any side in the Premier League bar their three at the top. I think they finished the season playing really, really well. I think they've, the last 6 weeks, they've had some very strong performances. They had a bit of a lull for maybe 7-8 games before, probably February, March, I'd imagine, where they really went off the boil a bit. But I think fair play to the manager. I think he has them organised. I think they play good football. I think, despite not having a striker, they've still been able to, probably put themselves top of the pack, other than the sort of 8-9 clubs who are a bit above everyone else. I think they've probably done as well or better as any of the teams we'd have had in the middle. So I think great season for Brighton. Question is, can they keep signing good players and adding to it? Will they get a striker, or are they going to start to lose a few players to teams like City?
I don't think it's the players. I think they've got to be careful whether they can keep the manager.
Yeah. No, actually, that's
the manager's the key to this summer.
Yeah.
Can they keep Graham Potter? Because somebody, it happens every year. Someone will just sack a manager in the middle of the summer. Always happens, because you always get every club do these end of season reviews, don't they? Where all these managers come in and then they go right, and they either part ways or somebody leaves. And I've got a feeling that Graham Potter might not be at Brighton next season.
But if I look at the Premier League, and it's really only Spurs or Arsenal that I think he'd really want to go to, who might potentially sack the manager, because I don't think City, Liverpool or Chelsea go for him. United have got a new manager. West Ham aren't going to be shifting managers. So there's not actually that many clubs where he could really step up in the Premier League, unless Conte throws a wobbly over transfer money, which is possible, where I think he'd be a good manager.
That's the one I'm thinking.
Or Arsenal. Arsenal, we've just talked about Arteta, but, they could get impatient. There are Arsenal fans who think Arteta hasn't improved them. I disagree. But imagine Potter with a young, Arsenal squad and a couple of solid signings. So I think he stays at Brighton unless Arsenal or Spurs somehow lose the manager in the summer.
I think Brighton will do. Trouble is with Brighton, you've got the same case with Leeds, where I don't think they'll keep hold of some of their players. Again, this Cucurella, he didn't dismiss the City links in his interview during the week. There was no dismissing of it or distancing himself.
What ex-Barcelona player, playing for, a team in the middle of the Premier League who gets a chance at City isn't going to want to take it?
But how long is Graham Potter going to want to keep selling off the crown jewels to rebuild again? Well,
till he gets offered the job that is a big step up and he wants to do it.
I think we speak about managers though, like Graham, and to be fair, just on to Brighton and West Ham actually before I say the thing about Graham Potter. I think both of them have had very incredible seasons. I think West Ham had the problems with injuries and stuff, but they still had an overall great season to finish 7th. When I think this season has been more of the Premier League, if you get what I mean, in that way. In the last few years, we've had Leicester in there, where above them we're usually what has been for the last few years the 6 best teams in the country, which is like your City's, Liverpool's, Chelsea's, Arsenal's, Tottenham's, United. What has usually been over the last few years, and obviously, so it's to finish 7th in that is still very good. And hats off to West Ham. They have to battle in a European competition, which if you haven't got the depth is very hard, and they've had a lot of controversies. Graham Potter, what a manager, what an absolute manager he is to do the job he's done with the limited resources, not really strikers, and again with controversies with certain players, and to still finish 9th is absolutely amazing. And what you said, Rich, he could have finished even higher if they had a striker. If they had, and it doesn't even have to be a top striker. It could be someone who can just, I can score 10, 11, 12 goals. They could actually be where West Ham are, because they play amazing football. And Graham Potter, I think Graham Potter is that kind of manager where I don't think he should move up to a bigger job. I think Brighton, West Ham, Everton, those kind of clubs, and the clubs that want to, you know, what I mean, transpire into maybe 7th, 8th, them kind of parts of the table. That's where Graham Potter is. I think he's perfect for clubs like Brighton.
The other thing with Graham Potter, which, you know, it makes him slightly different to some other managers. You get a lot of managers who have, like, I think this was probably true of Eddie Howe at Bournemouth, who looked really good, you know, played some really good football, looked really solid, but usually against the biggest teams, the top 6, they looked pretty terrible. But I've watched Brighton against Liverpool this year, against Spurs, against United, against City. Admittedly, we were, you know, the one team that got better of them, and against Chelsea even, and Brighton went toe to toe. Apart from City, they went toe to toe with nearly every other team at the top of that division, and they got results. I think they got, you know, they should have beaten Liverpool at Anfield, got a point. They beat Chelsea. They beat Spurs. They battered United. They could have scored 10. It was like the 6-1.
That was like watching this.
So the one thing that Brighton have, which not many of those teams often have who play great football in the middle, is actually Brighton lost their points in games that they should have easily won. They actually held their own against the better teams.
Yeah. I think with Brighton as well, I think they must keep hot if they want to build a project under Graham Potter, which looks like they do. If they want to, you know, keep continuously finishing top 10, because let's be real, I think this is the first time they've finished inside the top 10. So I think this is in the Premier League. So this is a good achievement. It's a brilliant achievement, and they want to build on this and even still finish in the top 10 next year. They have to keep players like Basuma, Tariq Lamptey, very important players, because Basuma he's incredible, and Cucurella's come in and he's looked at home in what is one of the toughest league in the world, and just Basuma's been absolutely incredible for them again. I think he is going to get a big move, but he's so talented.
Yeah. And let's not forget, I mean, my best mate's a Brighton fan, and so I've always kind of watched a bit of them, even when they're in the lower leagues and stuff like that. You know, it seems to me, I mean, it is a while back. It's, you know, back when we were in Division 2 and stuff, they were 10 minutes from going out the Football League. So they're a team who've taken even our depths going down to 14th in Division 2. Brighton are a side that have done that and some. You know, they've been playing in athletics tracks and at other people's stadiums.
Going back to Goldstone.
They're Goldstone, and then the Withdean, and then playing at Gillingham, where the fans had to drive about 2 hours to get to a game. And then, you know, I think it was against Hereford, they were 10 minutes from going out of the league. I mean, they really have, you know, been around the block, and the way they've built over the last 6-7 years, you know, or probably 10, they've built their way back slowly but surely is pretty impressive.
It's very good. Well done, Brighton. No more swooning about Brighton.
It's turned into Brighton fancy.
West Ham, as we know, David Moyes is the greatest manager to never win a trophy. But West Ham, you're getting a C-. Sorry.
They've to allow United to finish above them. Shocks me. It really shocks me.
Yeah, is that, you know, West Ham are in that group with, you know, I think the top 6 teams are the teams with the biggest resources, the biggest wage bills, and everything else. And West Ham, you give them a C-, but they have finished above every other team in the game, apart from the teams who would be called the traditional Big Six. And that's the one thing this season, that Leicester are gone, and it is actually the traditional Big Six who are in the top
that's why it's a C-. That's why it's a C-. Because, listen, Chelsea will be stronger next year. Liverpool will be as strong next year. City will be stronger next year. Arsenal will be stronger next year. Tottenham even will be stronger next year. United will be strong. No, that's what I said, as strong. I didn't say stronger. I said as strong as they are. United will be stronger next year. This was the chance for West Ham to break into that.
Spot on.
And they didn't. That's why it's a C-. Anyway, I don't want to think about West Ham too much. They've let me down. I've burnt my shirt.
It was the best opportunity.
It was, and it's gone now, Rich.
Sadly,
it has. I live to be proven wrong, but I feel as if it's gone now. I want to move on. I want to move on. I want to move on. I don't want to spend 4 hours on bloody Brighton and West Ham. Burnley 1, Newcastle 2. Burnley, bye-bye. Get back to the Championship. You don't even belong in the Championship. You're a League One team.
Oh, that's awful.
Piss off, Burnley.
I'm glad they're gone.
Do you know? To be honest, I think with Burnley, Burnley have been doing what I think I've said this a few times. What Sunderland done for a few years is they were just surviving. They weren't really for 2 or 3 years. They really haven't done much, but just survived. But again,
that's why I'm saying piss off Burnley because it's not an achievement to just fucking survive.
It's unfortunate for them because they had that 1 year where they finished in Europe and the season after I think they finished like 15th. They just didn't have the financial to compete with anyone else. But again, Eddie Howe has to. That man to. A lot of people laughed when he took over at Newcastle because of the Antonio Conte, the managers that were linked with Newcastle, and Eddie Howe has done an incredible job. It's gone under the radar, and he's brought in players like Bruno Guimaraes, he looks a proper player. Dan Burn, Kieran Trippier. Yes, Trippier's only played 5 or 6 games, but in the games he's played, he's looked good. He brought Chris Wood in from Burnley, which is Martin's favourite player. But they've done a great job. Like, well done to Newcastle. Well done to Eddie Howe. Eddie Howe, for me, it's unpopular. He's my manager of the season. I think the job he's done at Newcastle is incredible. They looked done at Christmas under Steve Bruce, and then Eddie Howe's come in and completely changed the club. He's changed everything the club's in. You mean they finished?
Hold on, Martin's face, Cal. I'm sorry, I'm cutting on over you, really, Cal. I'll give you. He's left. He's joined.
There we go.
I'll give you the 37 points since Christmas thing. I'll give you that. But manager of the season is a stretch too far, mate. He's in the running. Martin, stop. You know, you support City, you bloody hypocrite.
I get it. Newcastle have been amazing. I'm not denying that. But this Eddie Howe manager of the season,
I think you have to look.
He has whacked 100 million out here.
Yeah, but again, I think you look at the squad Newcastle have. Yes, he's brought in 100. He spent 100 million on that squad, but Kieran Trippier was 30 million of that. Kieran Trippier got injured in February and was out for pretty much the rest of the season. Dan Burn, yes, it was there, and obviously Bruno Guimaraes was the money sign, and that was their signing that they said were on the table.
As Cal said, since January the 1st. They've got 37 points. That's enough points, pretty much. That was enough points to stay up that Eddie Howe has got in the last 18 games of the season. Because I think they'd played 20 games. They were 12 points. And hadn't they had a run? They hadn't won a game in 14
They didn't win
games
till something in December.
So they went
or
into the new year, 14 games without a win. And then from January the 1st, Eddie Howe got enough points to keep them up.
And also,
that's pretty amazing.
It's the players he's improved, Rich, as well. And I don't, Joe Linton looked completely done at Newcastle. Completely done. He became a bit of a joke, and I know I've spoken to Newcastle fans that have said the same thing. They've said, he was becoming a bit of a joke. He's been moved into the midfield under him, and he's Newcastle fans adore him now. He's been a very good player, but yeah, I think Newcastle are going to be a problem next year with the money that they're probably going to spend.
Right, so Cal, old Matt. No, we've got to keep it flowing, keep it going.
It's the money part. How's already said
Martin, spending money is a guarantee of nothing. He's actually done something with that money, so you can't actually use money as a thing. That's your manager of the season. It's a shock to me that you've changed it from Ralph Rangnick because of his philosophy, but there we go. Right, I want to move on. Chelsea, they're also getting a C- as far as I'm concerned. Watford played against Watford 1-2-1. Watford are relegated. They're getting a F.
School kid football, Watford. That's all you need to say about it.
Chelsea? I don't want to spend a year on Chelsea. Just everyone get a brief point in. But Chelsea, Lukaku didn't show up. You're third. That's why.
Yeah, pretty much. It's been a shock, I think, for most people. I think most people looked the way they ended the season under Thomas Tuchel incredibly last year. They thought they're going to challenge. They did challenge until October, and that loss against City seemed to have completely ruin them. They just haven't recovered when they lost to City because they hadn't lost to anyone to that way. They battered teams or been the better team over the 90 minutes, and City didn't just outclass them, they battered them, and they lost 1-0, yes, but the season just has gotten worse. Injuries, COVID, everything, but it's been a terrible season, and Tuchel's my favourite to go the first to go next year. I think he's going to go in next season. I don't think he's going to last. Lukaku's failed completely.
Martin, are you surprised that Tuchel didn't go already? Because he was your favourite to go this season.
I think Roman Abramovich, having what happened to him, saved his job. If Roman Abramovich would still have been in charge of Chelsea, he would have gone.
Fair. Rich?
I think a disappointing season. I think they showed that whilst tactically they can, hold it together to, keep teams to no goals in cup finals, and they're just not. They can't do that over a season in the league. And Lukaku, they've just completely failed to be able to play the football that can make Lukaku a decent player, and so they actually spent 100 million on going backwards.
They've got a big summer ahead because they're about to lose 2 centre-backs.
Brief word on Watford. What was the point with Roy Hodgson? And also, how many managers have they had? And can they just stay out of the Premier League now for a while? Because they're obnoxious.
I think they've had 53 managers in the last 4 seasons, and to me, they played schoolboy football. They ran around had some skilled players, but were run around without any formation, any coaching, like schoolboys. It was, embarrassing.
They need brand new owners.
Yeah,
they need to change that mentality out. The Pozzo family are killing them. They are suffocating Watford. They are taking everything.
The Glazers of the Glazers of the.
Well, they're even worse. They are probably the Italian. They probably act like the Italian mafia and want to be. Because what manager's ever going to go in there unless they're going for a payday? That is the only reason.
We don't have to deal with them for another season, Martin. They're gone, so that's fine. Yeah. Crystal Palace 1, Manchester United or Man United 0. This is the first time I'm reading this, by the way, because I don't even think United were on TV. How the mighty have fallen. They lost 1-0 on the last day of the season. No Ronaldo, no party. Palace won. Yeah. But what we're rating Palace this season, Connor, a lot. Now I think I said this in February, or it might have been the end of January, because everyone was talking about Vieira doing a decent job. And while I don't dismiss that he's done a decent job, the thing I said at the time was, yes, but a lot of those players are not his. The loanees on their other people's players. So judge Vieira properly when he's got his own squad.
I think
I think in a way, Rob, that playing with loanees and stuff is actually even harder. So in some ways, that strengthens the coaching job he's doing. It weakens the position Palace are in and what he can do next season. But ultimately, they were a team who were, at the start of the season, a lot of people thought could go down. They lost a lot of senior pros and they finished comfortably mid-table without anyone ever thinking they were in danger of going down. So you've got to say that's successful. The question is whether he can carry it on if, he's going to lose a number of his best players because they're playing.
The thing about Palace is only one. Funny enough, they only had one lone player this season, which was, they had 2 technically with Mateta, but they then signed Mateta in January and then Conor Gallagher. But you've seen the form drop of Palace since around December, November time, which was mainly down to the fact that Conor Gallagher hasn't actually been in his best form since around December, January. But again, that's because the quality at the Palace, they haven't got the squad depth like many teams have. I think Patrick Vieira has done a great job at Palace to go with from 11, 13 first team players, whatever it was, to finishing 12th in the Premier League. It's good. And the way he's tried to play football, look, he's tried to play an attacking brand of football with what was a defensive team, and he's finished 12th. Credit to him. And Wilfried Zaha once again scoring against Man. He must score about 50% of his goals must be against Man United. He always scores past them.
Against City, they did well in both games, and they're the only team outside the top 8 with a positive goal difference, and that is, to have a positive goal difference outside the top 6 in the Premier League is pretty rare, and they've achieved that.
Yeah,
which says something about how
right.
they've consistently gone over the season.
I agree with you, Rich. Martin, tell us briefly about Man United's demise.
Instagram FC. They need to realise that it's not 20 years ago. But what they need to do, the first thing that United need to do, their owners, their managers, their supporters, their players, is that this is not 1990 anymore. They need to understand where they are and go again. They need to stop living on their past glories.
They need the owners gone. They are not going to change.
Not even with that. Here's my big thing, Rich. Here's my big thing. You speak to United fan, you go, why do you hate the owners? They don't support the managers. They don't support the players.
They do.
They whacked out more money than any other. This is why I don't get this glaze around nonsense.
Here's the question, Martin.
Because the cream off the top. A lot of owners do that.
No. Nothing to do with that. It is the reason the owners are behaving, the reason the club and the managers are signing the players they do and are thinking it's 1999 and they're signing Instagram is because that's what the owners care about.
Rich, the
owners care about the financial performance, and I disagree. United.
When Sebastian Veron was not
the last 4 years. The last 4 years of Ferguson, United were declining. City let Ferguson off in 2013 when we should have actually strengthened our team and won that league. And Ferguson would have gone, having not won the league in the last couple of seasons, been outclassed by us. And we let Ferguson have this last season where he got something out of a group of players who were past their best and won a last title. And the fact is that they've been on a decline since 2010.
Yeah, but I understand that, Rich. I understand that, and I take that on board. But don't this bullshit of the Glazers have not supported that club.
What Martin's trying to say is they've pumped. Martin's trying to say
money.
Rich. Martin's trying to say that they've spent 1.5 billion, and that is backing your club and managers. Mourinho was the only one with a genuine complaint. Anyway, I don't care about him. Martin, I don't care about him. Let's move on. Leicester 4, Southampton 1.
They're my Southampton, and Rob, you said about Brentford going down. I think Southampton are going down next season.
No.
They've been in the last since about the turn of the year. They've been in awful form. They were in the top 10, I think, in January 1st, and they let's be real, if us, Leeds and Burnley weren't so inconsistent, we would have definitely caught Southampton. They've been in awful form. And Leicester, again, since the turn of the year, Leicester they were about 14th, 15th. They were only 6 points ahead of us at one point a few weeks ago.
Finished 8th.
And they finished 8th, a few points off Europe. They had a disappointment. Yes, they've had injuries to Wesley Fofana, but again, I think Brendan Rodgers has underperformed.
You look at Leicester.
Simple. There's no conversation, Martin. No conversation. Is underperformed. Does this mean we can sign Kyle Walker-Peters from Southampton then?
Yes, but excellent. I think when it comes to Leicester, one man that deserves credit, and I didn't realise how many goals he scored. Jamie Vardy has scored. Jamie Vardy has scored 15 goals in 25 games, which doesn't sound impressive, but he's had a horrible season with injuries, COVID, and problems with his misses. But 15 goals, 17 goal contributions in 25 games, which is absolutely incredible. Wow. But yeah, Brendan Rodgers is a horrible guy, and Southampton are getting relegated.
Great. Liverpool played today, don't know if you know. They won 3-1 against Wolves. It was 1-1 for a long time. And Liverpool fans celebrated, I think, on about the 70-minute mark. No, it was later.
83rd.
It was near full time, yeah. Because somebody had got word around the Gobshite faithful that Aston Villa had levelled and made it 3-3. They hadn't. So that was fun. Liverpool, the second best team in England. Unlucky. Try again in 29 years.
I think they will look back at this season.
Oh, sorry, Rich. Sorry, you got confused there. You thought that was going to lead to a conversation about Liverpool. I don't give a shit. Wolves. Tell me about Wolves, Rich.
Wolves are they've just had an average season. I mean, they had a number of changes, lost a couple of players, manager went, and they've come back and finished 10th. So you can't say it's a bad season. You can't say it's a great season. They've been pretty solid defensively.
Yeah.
Apart from the second game against us, but they're a bit, yeah.
Question to all, really. I guess no question to all of you then. Is this Wolves side better than it would be if Nuno Espirito Santo was still in charge? Yes or no?
No.
About the same.
I think Nuno should never have joined Tottenham. I think Nuno was, yes, he finished 12th last year, but the amount of injuries and COVID and all the problems he had last year, he got back-to-back 7th place finishes with that Wolves squad, which is pretty impressive. And, you look at the squad he had, yes, the Diego Jota and that have left the club, but he made Diego Jota good enough to leave to go to Liverpool. Look what he did for the likes of Ruben Neves, Connor Cody. So many, he's done such a good thing for that squad, and he deserves so much credit. But Bruno Lage, who's their new manager, they've disappointed me because I thought they started the season off brilliantly and they looked brilliant. But Wolves have done well. Yes, 10th or 9th isn't what they wanted. They probably wanted higher than that, but credit to them. They looked good, and then obviously the squad depth has played a problem. And Adama Traore going on loan, I think you didn't realise just how much they did miss him when he weren't there. His bursts of pace, his explosiveness. Yes, he can't pass or shoot, but he had a bit of explosiveness which caused problems. But I think Wolves started off well, and the players that started off very well have slowed down, and that's the problem, lack of consistency. But yeah, I think it's been a 6 out of 10 for Wolves, to be honest.
Okay, Martin. Ruben Neves, is he on the transfer market in the summer?
It depends what Wolves want to do. I think Wolves didn't have the belief that they wanted to, because they were in contention for top 4 at one stage. If they'd have had that belief and maybe the backing, I think they have improved under Bruno Lage, whatever his name is. I do think they have. But the trouble is with all these clubs, they hit a ceiling, and it's where they go from there. It's a difficult one. It all depends what happens in the summer, really. But Nunez, Neto, they could all go. They really could all go, and I could see one of them ending up at the Swamp.
Yeah, maybe. But I think Wolves have got a special ability. I think if they could somehow reunite with Nuno Espirito Santo, I think that'd be. I know Cal's saying about large, but whatever. We're going to save the City Villa game till last. We'll talk about Norwich 0. Norwich, do us all a massive favour, Norwich. Do us all a massive favour.
Don't come back.
No. One better than that. I believe it was Rushden and Diamonds who were in the conference. And they won the conference about 3 times, and they weren't allowed to be promoted because their stadium capacity wasn't suitable for league football or something like that. Do us a favour, Norwich.
Yeah.
Win the championship by 110 points, but just refuse entry into the Premier League or something like that. I don't know. Because you piss me off.
They piss everyone off, Rob. Norwich, they really do.
I thought you said I piss everyone. In the last decade, Norwich have been in the Premier League, 4 times, and they've been relegated 4 times.
Yeah. First season every time, I think, as well. But Norwich, they're cursed, man. They've every time they've come up, they've tried to play a style of football. They just haven't got the ability to play. And they had a little bit of a manager boost under Dean Smith, and then it went back to the usual problems for Norwich. But, Norwich, and they need to make a serious change when the next time they come back up, because they're just not good enough for the Premier League. But Antonio Conte, I said how good he was, and he deserves some credit. What he's turned that Tottenham side into, I think they're going to be a problem next year. He's the top scorer since January 1st. Dejan Kulusevski and Bentancur were considered Juventus flops, and they've been absolutely world-class since signing. They really have. Kulusevski looks incredible. Harry Kane looks back to his best. Son golden boot joint with that fraud from Liverpool. Wow. All credit goes to Antonio Conte. He's turned Tottenham into Antonio Conte is just a world-class manager. I've said that I love him. Credit to him and credit what he's done to Tottenham.
I think I think all we need to say about Tottenham quickly is in January, Tottenham was a cheese deli in London in a big kind of shopping centre. And I think Conte's probably turned Tottenham into a football club. So there may be 20 clubs in the Premier League next season instead of 19 this.
All Conte has to do is not ask Daniel Levy for money. Martin, Dean Smith. Now, I don't want to embarrass you by playing clips of you saying that he's the new Cruyff, Guardiola, Ferguson, Moyes, Atkinson, Ramsey, Shankly.
Thought you were so quick.
No, Rich texted me and said he's got another 5 minutes. Rolled into one. What went wrong?
Norwich were already probably. I thought Norwich could have escaped. I've never mentioned Europe or anything. I just thought they'd get out of it. One, because of that new bounce, and I thought after Daniel Farke, where they wanted to play champagne football and sexy football, I thought they'd go with a bit more grit and determination, but it wasn't the way. And see, I'm the opposite to you. I'm with you on that. I think they need to reevaluate and go back to the Championship for 2 or 3 years, really, now. It's a bit of a weird one because Huddersfield now may be the new Norwich if they come back up. So we'll have to see. But I think Norwich, there's not enough quality. Not enough quality.
I think the problem with Norwich is that was it 2 years ago when they beat City, didn't they? In I think the third game of the season, or was it?
Yeah, like 3-2.
They must really irritate their own fans when they do that. When they come up, they look good, they look competent for 2 or 3 games, and then they just get peppered for the other 34 games of the season, 35 games of the season. So Norwich, yeah, I think Martin's advice is great. And I know that Dean Smith's listening; he's an avid viewer. But spend 3 years outside of the Premier League, build your academy, build some of your youth through, and then when you come back up to the Premier League with money in the bank, spend it wisely. Delia's a good cook; she's not a good bloody financial advisor or chairman. Anyway, right. The creme de la creme. Save the best till last. The big fish always eat the little fish, Rob. Big fish, little fish, cardboard box. Fact. It's not Easter, Martin. You're not on a cross.
Champions.
Richard, Callum, Manchester City 3, Aston Villa 2. Now, before we get into celebrating and talking about City, Aston Villa's season.
I think Villa have had it's been an underwhelming season for the players they brought in. I think people expect them to do much, much better. In the summer, they brought in some very good players. Didn't work out. They lost Jack Grealish, which was a huge loss for them. They haven't been able to replace him. And then in January, they sacked Dean Smith, brought in Steven Gerrard, who hasn't done a great job, to be honest there. It's been he's been overrated by the media. And in January, they brought in the best left-back of all time, Lucas Digne and Philip Coutinho. And it just hasn't worked. Like, Coutinho had started off on fire, but he slowed down. Yes, he scored today, but he has slowed down. Digne seems to have found his feet, but it's been just shocking. I just don't. They're very similar to Everton. The money they've spent, everyone for 2 or 3 years, but Everton, everyone said they're the team to get that 7th spot or to break into the top 6. People thought that with Villa. People genuinely were putting Villa in the top 7, top 6 for predictions this year, and they just haven't worked out.
Spot on. I think they're very disappointing. I think they wanted to be at worst where West Ham are, and as it is, they've ended up, probably if you consider that Southampton had just sneaked into a relegation battle, maybe the bottom 6 teams, 40 points and below. Villa are bottom of the rest of the league.
You know what's crazy, Rich? We all said 10 minutes ago that West Ham are the 7th best team and they underachieved. Villa are a mile off West Ham.
Villa are the 14th best team.
They're a mile off West Ham.
Yeah.
Mile off West Ham.
Martin,
briefly about Villa before we let everyone,
I think to put it bluntly, they've been shit. I really do. For the aspirations they've actually got, for everything they want their club to be, they've massively gone backwards, because what they're doing now, they're trying to do what they're trying to have aspirations of past glories by throwing money at it now. That's what they want to do. Throw money, hope it gets somewhere, and here we go. And there doesn't seem to be an actual plan. It's like today, I'm sorry, long ball FC. Don't have Coutinho and Buendia in your team that are two great playmakers, and then just have your goalie going bang all day long.
I want to say something, Martin, with the greatest level of offence against Steven Gerrard. I had to witness him as Rangers manager, and yes, he won the title. Great, well done. In a one-horse race, you won. Well played. You just said there, and I agree with you, money, because that's what they want to do. They want to flash the cash and show that they are a player. Steven Gerrard's not the manager you want to have if you're going to do that. He's not. I mean, let's face it, okay, granted, Steven Gerrard got Coutinho through the door when Coutinho wouldn't have come through the door for Dean Smith or whatever. No. But
yeah,
that's not long term. And
it isn't with those two in the middle. You can't.
I'm not giving Steven Gerrard a blank check. Basically, is what I'm saying. No, not the man.
You can't have Buendia and Coutinho together and not use them. It's like buying a Bugatti Veyron and taking them down a 20-mile-an-hour road and saying that's it. It isn't going to work like that. Don't bring in two quality playmakers and handcuff them. It's pointless. I just don't get it. I don't get it at all.
Yeah.
Ollie Watkins is fine. If you want to play the big boot to Ollie Watkins to run off with his speed, that's fine. But then don't have Coutinho and Buendia in there, because they ain't going to do the dirty stuff.
Well, Aston Villa's season is a D-. Now, I thoroughly can't get my words out sometimes. I thoroughly recommend that you go, but I've had a lot of alcohol. I thoroughly recommend that you go back and watch Martin's post-match. We had fun, and we won the league. By the way, we're champions.
We had a sing-song.
Yeah. Richard.
No, it wasn't that rich.
Richard. Manchester City, Premier League champions. B+? Well,
I think for the Premier League, you get an A if you win it.
Okay, A-.
B+ overall, because of the cups, but it's got to be an A in the Premier League. It would have been an A+ if we'd have managed to hold on to the 2-0 loss and let the Scousers draw and really, shithouse them. But, at the end of the day, we thought they're going to score, so we thought we better score 3 and give the fans something, bit less tension, bit less nerves. But, fair play, winning the league without a striker, without,
again,
without a defence for the last 4 or 5 games and stuff, it's huge. And I think if Liverpool fans are really, really honest with themselves, they've missed out on a chance of actually taking advantage of City this year. We let them off the hook twice. We should have been 5 up at half-time both games against Liverpool.
Yeah,
we should have been out of sight.
Right,
and we did that without a striker. We had game after game where we struggled to finish our chances without a striker. And then we ended the season with Fernandinho having to play the last 4 or 5 games as centre-back. And despite all that, we're champions, which is absolutely magnificent. And I just think maybe, I think we'll get better next year. I don't think Liverpool necessarily will. And I think they may come to really regret this as a missed opportunity.
I have to ask you one thing, Rich.
We may come back to look at this far more fondly than we may do this season. As actually, that's a year we really got a league title with some grit and maybe against the odds a bit.
Yeah, definitely. No, trust me, Big Morgan, I'm taking a piss, mate. We've been fucking phenomenal. 93 points is ridiculous.
I know that's where I'm at the minute. I'm wondering where the hell Rich is going.
Anyway, so Rich, do you think we can do it 3 years in a row without a striker? Because as we all know, Haaland's coming next season. He's going to score 5 goals a game all throughout August, and then by September he's going to be up on bricks. So,
Yeah.
Can we go 3 years without a striker?
I think Alvarez is going to be on you.
Oh, don't. You know what? Alvarez is a fucking bingo word, isn't it, Martin?
Oh,
Really
right, have you watched him, Rich? You watched him week?
Right, Martin, I'm going to tell you.
We could get Chris Wood as well.
I'm going to tell you how.
Newcastle.
I'm going to tell you now how you spell Alvarez because it's a very special spelling. Punt. What does that spell, Martin?
One hell of a punt.
Fact. Right. Sorry.
Can I just quickly?
Well, no, you've had your say. It's Cal and Rich. They're talking about how great City are.
But Rich is talking garbage.
Whoa.
I think we've, A for our season. We've done great.
A+.
No, we didn't win the cups. We only get an A+.
This is not a cup show, Rich. This is the 20 Premier League show.
Yeah,
Got a point, Rich.
But why? We didn't win the Community Shield. What a load of bollocks.
Martin, it could only be an A+ if
for winning what exactly we wanted to.
It would only
season's in the bin, Martin.
Top of the league by 111 days. Liverpool only being top by 11 nights.
Yeah,
come on, give over.
It would only have been an A+ if we'd have stayed at 2-0 down and Liverpool had drawn.
I'm going to say
Liverpool took the entire month of December off.
Do you know why, Rich? Do you know why it's an A+? Because the greatest ever Liverpool team in the last 50 years has just been shit on by a Manchester City team in transition. Good night.
He speaks facts. Martin, drop the mic, Martin. Drop the mic. Seriously. Well done, Martin. Cal, C-.
D.
I think Cal's too stunned to speak. That Martin's actually
Cal's
spoke
just
facts.
Going to mention oil money and and the fact that it's only because of Rodri's handball that we won the league.
Where's he gone? Shithouse. He's shithouse talking. You know what, right? The one time we asked Cal to speak positive of City and he's not here anymore.
he's done one.
Absolute shithouse, right?
I'm still shocked.
Hello?
Hey,
hello.
Can you hear me?
We've let Liverpool
off. My headset has had to cut out. But no, this has been an unpopular opinion that I've held about Manchester City this season. This is the most impressive season, and people can talk about whatever they want. To win the league with no striker, with the squad that Manchester City have. Well, look, what you argue, you've had about 13 players available for the whole season, and you could argue that what has been the squad for the last 3-4 years, and you have let's be real. Other than yes, it's not even a slip up. You drew to Southampton. You lost to Tottenham twice. Yes, that 3-4 years ago you battered them teams, but you're not the same team you were 3-4 years ago. You're more technical and you're better. You are the best. And I've said this to Jack. I've said this to Rob. I've said this to everyone. This Manchester City team is the greatest team I've ever seen in my life. And
that's amazing because we're doing it, one, without David Silva, who's the greatest footballer of all time.
And without a striker.
Two without a striker. 3 with Jack Grealish. 4 with Rodri. And 5 with Cancelo.
Well, honestly,
and Fernandinho at 37.
Today just summed up, and you just spoke about it. Today summed up Manchester City. You just went 2-0 down, and it had to be. It was just written in the stars, essentially. 10 years ago, you did against QPR, so you won the game 3-2, and then 10 years later, you win against Villa 3-2 and win the league off what has become probably your new rivals, essentially, because let's be real, if it weren't for Manchester City, Liverpool win the last 4 out of the last 5, you could argue league titles, or 3 out of the last 5.
So that's why Everton fans really need to be loving City fans.
Seriously though, I can't speak highly of Manchester City. Yes, people can talk
clip that. He just said I can't speak highly of Manchester City. Never mind.
I meant even, you know what I mean? 99 goals without a striker. Name me a team that could do that. Please, name me a team. 99 goals.
No, Rich is going to come up with one in a minute.
And this isn't me kissing up to Manchester City's ass because you're here. This is me just stating my opinion on Manchester City. I've never seen a team as good as yours, and it's quite scary how good I think you're going to be with the addition of Erling Haaland, because that boy can score a lot of goals, and he's a first-time fit. The minute the ball comes to him, he has that killer instinct, and he's gonna have Kevin De Bruyne putting balls into him, and Kevin De Bruyne absolutely gives me nightmares. But yeah, Liverpool are shit. Fuck Liverpool, and I love Manchester City because they're taking the league off those horrible bastards every year, and I love it. And I love you all. Up the City.
Rich is like, need to go now. Mic drop.
I have to go and take my daughter to school, but champions, magnificent. And to be honest with you,
had to take your licks.
Absolutely magnificent. And I actually really enjoyed that we didn't do it the easy way last night. I enjoyed seeing the Scousers getting that taste of the title and then having it whipped away. And that was far better than an easy 3-0 win any day of the week.
Yep.
So, great season, champions, magnificent.
A-.
Yes. A- because we didn't shithouse enough in the last week.
And that's been the 20 for this season. Sorry, Cal, you can say whatever you've got to say on next season's 20 because you're still in the Premier League.
Exactly, lad. Yes.
Good night, everybody. Good night, Martin.
Bye.
Good night, Rich. Good night.
Good night.
Bye.
Good night. Bye, Big Morgan. Bye, Jack. Bye, Crystal B. Yeah, by the way, the actual answer as to why we get more injuries is because we've got a smaller squad. Nobody believes it, but it's fact. Bye, everyone.